Good afternoon. Thank you so much for choosing for attending this session, the Intelligent Platforms and Service Delivery. I'm very happy and very honored to host this session. We have today two amazing industry leaders on providing platforms and two city governance. So it's a very nice, good division in this panel. And before we start, I would like to introduce myself. I am Katalin Gallyas, a CIO and founder of Civic Amsterdam. It's a virtual incubator for startups that are actually bringing urban transformation using IoT, using smart navigation, using open data. And yeah, actually, let's see. What I'm doing is actually with these startups helping them to get EU funding. And so it's professional fundraising and helping them also to understand how to get investments. So when I'm very much working with startups, and I think that they can bring a revolution when it's about service delivery and about platforms. This is one of my startups, Beeline, offering IoT solutions and smart navigations. And because today it's not about me, but I'm just opening this session with the jungle. And why is it a jungle? Because if you're in the city, you see there are many providers, many solutions, and it's very dense. It's very tough to choose the best providers. And today it's really not about finding the best solutions, but it's about discussing about open data, about how to capture the value, how to actually unlock the value of open data. And I'm very happy to have very distinguished guests today that will answer many of the questions. And please use the app because at the end the public will also open questions. So very happy to have here first speaker from Logroño. She's the mayor of Logroño, Concepción, Gamarra, Ruiz, Clavijo. Please take the floor, and she will explain us about the smart city initiatives in Logroño. Please welcome her.
Muy buenos días, Katalin, y muy buenos días a todos ustedes. Yo, en primer lugar, quiero reconocer la importancia que tienen foros como estos, que nos permiten conocer e intercambiar los intereses, las expectativas de, por un lado, los territorios, las administraciones, las ciudades, y por otro lado, lo que la empresa privada, el sector privado, está desarrollando y está poniendo a disposición de la sociedad. Yo, mi intervención va a girar sobre todo en trasladarles el por qué una ciudad como la mía, como Logroño, apuesta por los datos abiertos y, por tanto, apostamos por las plataformas, que no significa, porque tiene un trasfondo filosófico. Estamos en un momento de cambio, de transformación social, y tenemos muy claro como sociedad, como territorio, que nosotros lo que queremos cambiar, y en el momento en el que nos encontramos, exige una nueva gobernanza. Esa nueva gobernanza en lo que se sustenta es, por un lado, en la necesidad de la transparencia, de que el ciudadano, de que las personas tengan datos y conozcan cómo se gestiona por parte de sus responsables públicos su dinero público, qué nivel de servicio se ofrece, qué estamos buscando. Por otro lado, también tenemos la obligación de ser sostenibles las ciudades y, por tanto, las administraciones públicas, de gestionar bien, de dar un buen uso al dinero público y, por tanto, al dinero de los impuestos de los ciudadanos. Y, por otro lado, tenemos un reto en estos momentos, por lo menos las ciudades españolas, y es el de crear empleo. Somos municipios, ayuntamientos, que, aparte de ser prestadores de servicios, adoptamos un nuevo papel, un nuevo rol. Ese nuevo rol, ese nuevo papel es el de impulsar nuestras propias ciudades para que se genere empleo en nuestra ciudad. Este es el trasfondo político, por decirlo de alguna manera, o de principios que nos ha llevado a creer en las plataformas y nos ha llevado a creer y querer tener datos de nuestra ciudad. Y para tener esos datos hemos pensado que el mejor camino posible era dotarnos y apoyarnos en la tecnología. Es ahí donde surge la necesidad de la colaboración entre las administraciones públicas y las empresas del sector tecnológico. ¿Qué es lo que estamos buscando en estos momentos? Y lo hacemos además en red, las distintas ciudades españolas que nos hemos coordinado a través de una red española que se llama la Red Española de Ciudades Inteligentes. En estos momentos, hoy estamos celebrando la Junta Directiva y la Asamblea de estas ciudades. Somos ya más de 70 y aglutinamos a la gran mayoría de la población española. Buscamos a través de esa plataforma conseguir estos 3 objetivos que nos permitan los datos, y para ello queremos tener datos. A través de medir lo que hacemos, podemos tener los datos que ofrecer a la sociedad con transparencia, para que pueda saber qué hacemos y qué objetivos tenemos. Queremos medirnos para saber qué capacidad de gestión también tenemos de mejora. Queremos medir, y por ejemplo en Logroño lo que estamos midiendo a través de esa obtención de los datos es nuestra calidad del aire, porque somos una ciudad que como modelo y como estrategia tenemos la calidad de vida. También el nivel del ruido, pero no solo queremos tenerlo nosotros internamente como gestores, sino queremos ponerlo en la mano del ciudadano. La plataforma, los distintos desarrollos tecnológicos nos permiten en distintas zonas de la ciudad obtener los datos. Y a partir de ahí que los datos tengan 2 caminos. Por un lado, el de la gestión pública y, por tanto, que el equipo de gobierno tomemos las decisiones sobre esos datos, pero también poner en tiempo real al ciudadano en cada momento la calidad del aire de la ciudad. Hoy un logroñés, a través de la app logroño.es, puede entrar y saber qué calidad del aire tiene en cada momento en los distintos puntos. Eso ha sido a través de distintas plataformas y distintos proyectos pilotos que estamos desarrollando. Pero queremos ir a más. En estos momentos estamos en fase de licitación de una plataforma que nos permita gestionar todos los servicios públicos de manera organizada. Esa gestión nos lleva a tener todos los datos de la recogida de la basura, de la movilidad urbana, que es uno de los elementos fundamentales en lo que es la organización de una ciudad, también de las quejas y sugerencias. Eso significa también que al ciudadano le ponemos en esa nueva gobernanza la posibilidad de opinar y la posibilidad de hablar de tú a tú con el propio ayuntamiento. Pero hay un elemento que también es fundamental en esa recogida de datos que llevamos a cabo. Queremos que el ciudadano conozca, queremos tomar decisiones, pero queremos también llevar a cabo algo fundamental, y es que toda esa recogida de datos se ponga a disposición de la sociedad para la generación de empleo. Sabemos que eso es importante y que del conocimiento y de esos datos hay muchísimos emprendedores, muchos nuevos empresarios que a través de startups son capaces también de generar nuevos desarrollos económicos y nuevos desarrollos tecnológicos. Eso es otro de los fundamentos que tienen estas plataformas y por lo que nosotros estamos apostando por ellas. Para todo esto hay un elemento que también es fundamental y que los ayuntamientos estamos desarrollando en España, y es que necesitamos un marco jurídico desde el punto de vista municipal. En España el marco jurídico a nivel municipal son las ordenanzas. Hemos articulado un modelo de ordenanza, una ordenanza de transparencia, de accesibilidad a la información pública, porque estamos convencidos de que no es una opción, sino que es un derecho. Ese acceso a la información pública solo lo podemos llevar a cabo a través de la tecnología. Eso lo tenemos claro, a través de los propios portales de transparencia que nos permitan que las plataformas se conviertan en portales de acceso al ciudadano. Son las ordenanzas las que nos han permitido y las que nos permiten ser el marco de acceso a todos esos datos, a el Open Data, porque tenemos que regular cómo acceder, cómo garantizar ese derecho y además hacerlo compatible con otros derechos que también son importantes, como es el derecho a la protección de datos. Es ese instrumento, la ordenanza municipal, la que hoy en una ciudad como Logroño permite a cualquier ciudadano poder acceder a toda la información, no solo tener derecho a la información, sino que tengamos también la obligación de facilitarle toda la que él nos exija. Ya no garantizando simplemente que publiquemos lo que queremos, sino que facilitemos en el formato que se nos pida cualquier información que pueda ser susceptible de ser útil a la actividad económica o al conocimiento por parte de la ciudadanía. Esos son los elementos fundamentales en los que nosotros estamos sustentando el momento actual, ese cambio, esa buena gestión, esa nueva gobernanza y en la que, sin duda alguna, la plataforma es fundamental, porque tiene que ser lo que está detrás y lo que nos facilita realmente poder dar ese salto cualitativo en lo que es la calidad de vida, el papel protagonista que tiene un ciudadano hoy en la gestión de su ciudad y, sobre todo, el derecho a saber absolutamente todo lo que ocurre y, a partir de ahí, a poder valorar si las cosas se están haciendo bien, si se están haciendo mal, dónde tenemos margen de mejora, dónde no lo tenemos y tomar las decisiones de manera colectiva en ese ámbito. En cuanto a los proyectos piloto, fundamentalmente, que estamos desarrollando, más allá de la licitación de la plataforma que en este momento se lleva a cabo, estamos recogiendo datos en todo lo que tiene que ver con la calidad del aire, también la calidad de toda nuestra agua, también todo lo que tiene que ver con el ruido en la ciudad o el propio mantenimiento de los parques y jardines. Nos parece interesante y eso es en lo que trabajamos. Aparte de todo eso, concebimos la ciudad, algo que creo que es importante, como un laboratorio. Es decir, somos prestadores de servicios, pero como les decía al principio, queremos tener un papel de motor en la economía. Eso nos lleva a ofrecer la propia ciudad como laboratorio, como espacio experimental para seguir desarrollando desde la tecnología nuevos sensores y nuevos desarrollos tecnológicos. Uno de los que ya se ha experimentado en la ciudad y se ha llevado a cabo tiene que ver con el riego inteligente de nuestras zonas verdes. Tiene un trasfondo de responsabilidad medioambiental, de no malgastar el agua y, por tanto, de cuidar un recurso natural que es importante para toda una sociedad. Para nosotros ha sido importantísimo que esa tecnología que hemos desarrollado para un riego inteligente, que significa gastar solo el agua que es necesaria y cuando es necesaria, ha sido desarrollado por nuestros propios empresarios a través de la colaboración público-privada, que es un eje fundamental en todo este nuevo modelo. Y sin duda alguna, para un ayuntamiento, para una ciudad, y así lo opinamos las ciudades españolas, la tecnología es el instrumento que hoy nos puede permitir avanzar, transformar la sociedad y yo creo que sobre todo darles la confianza a los ciudadanos en sus administraciones, en sus instituciones, como servidores públicos y sobre todo como gestores del futuro, que al final es lo que nos tiene que llevar a todos a trabajar en el día a día, desde lo público y desde lo privado. Y yo he querido ser muy breve, dar unas pinceladas y sobre todo resaltar que la importancia es esa colaboración conjunta entre el sector tecnológico y el sector público para seguir avanzando. Muchas gracias.
Wow. Thank you so much. It was very inspiring to hear such a visionary leadership on open data for a relatively small city, and I really was impressed that you consider the city as an open data lab. And I also come from city governance. I know what it means, how to train people, how to get this awareness. So very inspiring. Thank you so much. Our second speaker is coming from Cisco. He's actually the managing director of Connected Smart City initiative. I'm very happy to have him here from San Francisco, Arvind Satyam. Please take the floor and give him an applause.
Hello? Is this on? Good afternoon. Well, we were just a little concerned because I know it was after lunch, so were you going to dance to get the team up? Okay. So I have a question for you. Who took a taxi yesterday on the way back from the event? How long did you wait? So put your hand up if you spent more than 30 minutes. 4 hours. Okay. You're helping my point. So simple question. There you go. I like this. I'll pay you afterwards. So really the question is, there's a lot of us that were all leaving at the same time. And I noticed a lot of people got into the cabs individually. And when you get off at the hotel, a lot of people were coming back individually. Now, it's a simple case where we could have just pulled together and tried to figure out where we're going, right? And it's a place where a number of us could pull together and get to the location. I know Uberpool and others do it, but it's an area where we could share data as a city, or in this case as an event, to an agency or to a taxi agency in this case, to make sure that there's going to be more resources deployed to an area which is constrained. So I think it's just a simple example of how open data that's applied can solve a specific decision. So I'm going to get started. First thing that I want to talk about is, this quote from Geoffrey Moore. he did Crossing the Chasm, and he's a management theorist, and he spoke about, without big data, you're blind and deaf in the middle of a freeway. Now that's pretty scary, but just imagine if you're sitting in a car and you don't have a dashboard, and you can't tell what speed you're going, can't tell about the oil, all the other conditions. That's pretty scary too. Now the question is, how would you manage a city if you didn't have all this intelligence at your disposal? So the premise of this discussion is really that data is important, but capturing data and sharing data and actually using data to drive an outcome is a lot more important. And so I want to talk to you about how we can help cities. And Mayor Concepción did a great job of giving us a call to action. Cities want this data. Cities want to enable citizens to receive this data. So part of our role is to really enable that data to be captured and to really use intelligence to drive specific outcomes. So I just want to keep that in the back of our minds. Without data, we can't do a lot. But without using data to drive smart outcomes, we're not driving real change that we need to and adding intelligence to the citizens. Now, one of the challenges that we see in terms of capturing data is cities are actually organized in silos. And I think many of us who've worked with public sectors know this. Historically, they've been aligned in individual agencies. And one of the concerns that we have is you can capture data as a traffic department, as a security department, let's say as a parking agency, but if that data is not speaking together and you're not driving change, right, in terms of operational change, now that you have this intelligence, the city's not actually using that data. So one of the first things that we need to do is start breaking these silos and actually driving outcomes together in a centralized way. And that way cities will move that data into a central decision-making body. And we see cities that are driven to do this typically have city managers and others that are leveraging technology as a platform, and they try and they bring all this data together from the different agencies. Now we have an advantage today, and I've been coming to this event for the past 4 years. 4 years ago it was a lot about, what are the nice gadgets, what are some nice IoT deployments. But today I think the conversation's progressed. We know that the technology is a lot more real, and it's a lot more connected. Citizens are very used to getting data on their smartphones. In fact, citizens demand it, right? So we have the technology at our disposal today to actually enable this change. So we need to get this technology connected, and we need to have this networked effect of making sure that data that's being captured from one sensor, let's say a light sensor to a parking sensor, can now be looked at holistically. And the idea is for cities to really think about themselves as a living organism, and it's much more of a connected environment, not just an individual body. So what's needed to enable this? And there was a lot of discussion, and I love the fact that cities now are speaking about platforms because they're completely converted, right? We used to have to explain the need for platforms. Now we have a lot of our customers, cities and others, wanting to come to us, and they articulate the need for having a platform. And Cisco's position on this is we have a platform that we've launched this week, which we call our Connected Digital Platform. And as you know, Cisco's a company that's been around for over 30 years. Our heritage is around connecting things, whether it be connecting the internet or connecting a number of objects. And the city's no different. It's a number of objects inside of a city. So the way we look at this problem is we want to make sure that you have a network architecture that's secure, that allows you to connect a number of these things. We want to make sure that these things that you connect, the data then gets captured and it gets normalized, and now you can move that towards an agency that's driving an outcome. Whether you're a parking agency, whether you're a lighting agency, or actually aggregating all this together in terms of a command and control view. So a mayor can see multiple feeds looking at it on a real-time basis. The other thing I want to call out here is we're working with a large ecosystem, and it's the domain experts. So if you look at this particular chart, there's companies that are in fleet. There are companies that are involved in security. What we want to do is expose the data so companies that have the heritage, that know how to manage this data in these domains, can actually spend time writing things that are applicable for that local environment. Because cities are different. what the requirements of a Barcelona or a Logroño is different to what a San Francisco needs. So we want to make sure that that data gets captured, and we want to make sure that data coexists with the open data, which a lot of cities share today. So the key is for us to go enable the capture of this data and for this data to be used to drive outcomes. So I want to give you an example here. This is not going into the platform view, but this simply shows what we're trying to do in terms of enabling a city manager, a mayor, or an operator. So in this particular case, this is our platform deployed in Dubrovnik, which you haven't been. It's where the Game of Thrones is being shot these days, so they're very advanced. And what we're trying to do here is connect a number of things, whether it be parking or noise or environment. And the key is, before they used to be done individually, now you bring it together in one centralized repository. And you can also then move that towards individual applications. There was a question around, or rather there was a comment around business models and making sure that the data can be paid for. One of the challenges we see is capturing data is great, but there's an initial investment that's required to actually deploy the infrastructure to capture this data. So we want to make sure that there's business models that exist. It's not just the city that needs to pay for this. It could be the retailers, it could be citizens, it could be visitors. So the key is to make sure that data is looked at as a resource and there's many beneficiaries. And the key is to make sure that we bring all these beneficiaries to the table to go drive this. I want to close with a couple of examples. And from a citizen perspective, you want to enable them and give them tools, whether it be walking tours, whether it be security awareness and those elements. In these examples, in the first one, it's a citizen that wants to drive from point A to point B. Now you give them real-time visibility. They can figure out exactly where the spots are. So that cuts down a lot of that. In this particular example, you have a lot of people that are waiting in a particular congested bus zone. And so as a city, they can get intelligence to this and they can deploy more buses to this route. Just like yesterday, you could deploy a lot more taxis or other modes of transport to reduce the congestion. The third example is with a citizen that's walking from point A to point B, and there's visibility that there's some light poles that are out. And this is in the evening, and she's concerned about security, and she's getting visibility, right? And she might choose to take an alternate route. Now, this intelligence could also be shared with the security department, where if there's an issue, she can also have the ability to press real-time SOS, and security can tie it together. So the last slide that I want to close on is, how does this look like from a holistic view for a city? City of Copenhagen, which many of you might know, had an agenda of driving carbon neutrality by 2025. And they realized early on they couldn't do this just through technology. Just last week, they have more bikes than cars. That's great. But they still need to figure out how much energy is being produced and how it's being used and how they can be more efficient. And a platform allows them to do that. So we've been working with an ecosystem and the city locally to deploy a number of these solutions. And now that they have this visibility across multiple dimensions, they can drive towards this agenda. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It was very inspiring. I just have one question, if I may. How can you ensure the cities are actually co-creating in this platform and that they are invited as a kind of important demand contributors?
Absolutely. So is this on? Oh, it is. Okay. So I look at it as a two-way partnership between a city and companies like ourselves, because at the end of the day, you are the ones that are managing the city, you're the closest to the citizens, and the key is we help enable, we help capture the data, but we need to hear from you in terms of what's important, right? You mentioned environment, noise, pollution, their priorities. In the case of Copenhagen, they had priorities. So I look at this as a collaborative effort where we sit down with you and we work on solving problems that are important, right? And this is where I think that two-way closed-back loop needs to come in. And I think cities should also be very direct and open in terms of what are those challenges and what are the ones that can actually be commercially successful, right? Because it's one thing building science projects, it's another thing doing things that become sustainable. Because we want to be involved in projects that scale. cities want to be involved in things that make transformative change. So that's where I think this collaboration is important.
Thanks. Great. And I would like to invite the audience, please use the app, and if you have any questions, post it now and we can vote, and it will be asked at the end. So now actually going back to governance again, we had one industry, one city, smaller city. Now I would like to invite the next speaker, who is from Dubai, and he's actually the CIO of Smart Dubai Government, Mr. Wesam Lootah. And I was very happy to speak to him, and he will talk about the Smart Dubai platform. Please take the microphone and give him an applause.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Oh.
Is this on?
On.
Can you hear me? Say, my name is Wesam Lootah, and I come from the most ambitious city in the world. It's very simple. We want to be the best in everything we do. For us, being good or even great is not enough. We want to be the best across the board. We want to be the smartest city. We want to be the best city for doing business. We want to be number one in education, healthcare, environment, governance, living. We want to be the best across the board. And some of you might be asking, why? Why is this almost obsession for being number one? Why would we have this insatiable hunger for being ranked number one? Well, actually, it's very simple. It's because we want the best for our people. Let me repeat this again. We want the best for our people. We want to make Dubai the happiest city on earth. We want Dubai to be the happy city for our citizens, for our residents, and for all of you when you come to visit us in Dubai someday. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice President of the UAE and the Prime Minister and ruler of Dubai, he said on the very first day of launching the Smart City Initiative, our ambition is to touch the life of every individual, to achieve a happier life for all. Our vision is in Smart Dubai is to be the happiest city on earth. Happiness for us is the driver. Technology for us is a means to an end. And that's how we view it. There are three things that I would like to talk to you about today that are important to us. Our Smart City Initiative is an all-inclusive initiative. The second point is that data is key. It is the fuel for our transformation. And the third point is that governments need to orient themselves towards their customers, towards their citizens, not the other way around. So our mandate is very simple. We want to be ranked number one as the smartest city in the world. We work across 4 pillars and 6 dimensions. Some cities organize their smart city initiative around a specific set of issues or specific dimensions. Some are looking at mobility, others are environment, some has the priority as the economy. However, we have organized and designed our initiative to be all-inclusive. We're leaving nothing behind. We are covering all 6 dimensions of the city. And we're launching 100 initiatives and 1,000 services. So our initiative is across the board, from economy to governance, environment, living, mobility, and people. And we can't do this alone. We need you, we need the private sector, and we need to partner. That's why we have partnered with the leadership in Dubai, the government entities, and with the private sector, and we're also partnering with international entities. We believe the partnership with the private sector is key to what we are doing. The second point I would like to make is about data. Data for us is the fuel for the transformation, and that's why we have launched the Dubai Data Initiative and the Dubai Data Law. The Dubai Data Law has very, very ambitious goals. It's the most comprehensive data law that has been published. It does not only look at public sector data, but also includes private sector. The priority is not only in opening data to fuel creativity and innovation, but also it mandates the sharing of data across the government. So this is very critical to create the type of experiences that we want for our citizens and residents. So no longer could city leaders or government entities hoard the data and keep it to themselves. Now it's mandated that they share this data responsibly, making sure, obviously, to protect the security and the privacy of the data. But data alone is not enough. It's not enough to stick some data sets in a portal and leave it for people. It's very critical to couple this with the right technology, with the infrastructure. And that's why we're launching the Smart Dubai platform, which will be ready by Q1 in 2017. So the Smart Dubai platform is the digital backbone of the city. It's the operating system of the city. Many of you, if you think about starting a business, you don't think about, how am I going to generate my own electricity? You think of it as a utility. You just plug your equipment and you start consuming the electricity. And this is what we want to do. We want to make advanced analytics, machine learning, IoT management, cloud services, these kind of advanced technologies, we want to make them a utility for everyone, for the small entrepreneurs and for the big companies, for the individuals in Dubai. So services like identity, payment, geolocation will all be available through this platform. But we also believe, so the third point I want to say is also that governments need to orient themselves towards their customer. So in order to take advantages of this data and these platforms, they need to be designed from the perspective of the customers. We need to listen to our constituents. We need to listen to our citizens. And that's why we are launching, or we have launched these two examples. The happiness meter is one of them. The happiness meter allows us as government and as leaders of the city to listen, to give the citizens a voice. Let them guide us and guide our strategy. So they vote for their happiness. And it's very simple. You don't want to take a 10-minute survey every time you interact with the government. We made it very simple. You either vote happy or unhappy. And this platform, or this happiness meter, is available at every single touch point with the government, whether it is physical or digital, on the websites, on the mobile apps. And we're making this available to all city leaders. So it's not enough just to have this constant stream of happiness votes. We need to listen. And so we provided the dashboard to our city leaders, and as well on their mobile apps, they can see real time how their services are doing, how are they doing, and how are the changes in the services affecting the happiness of citizens in the city. We have collected, just in the last 12 months, over 4 million votes. And now we are expanding this happiness meter concept to the entire city, to all the private sector entities as well. And the last point I'd like to make is that technology should work for you, for the citizens of these cities, not against you. So we have also done in this example is to make sure that the experience of our citizens is consistent and coherent across the board. We've launched something we call Dubai Now. It's a single platform that allows all city services to be delivered from one platform. And why do we call it Dubai Now? Because tomorrow is not good enough. People want their services today. And this is a real example that you can experience on our stand. You can, I invite you, all of you, to come to our stand, the Smart Dubai stand, and you can see this application live. More than 50 government services and semi-government services are available from over 22 institutions within Dubai. This is a live example of how we can bring the private sector, public sector partners to create this unique experience. This is what we were trying to do in Dubai, create experiences that are seamless, efficient, impactful, and safe. So at the end, I'd like to wrap up and remind you that smart city initiatives need to be inclusive. And that's what we're trying to do. We need to give our customers a voice. We need to use data and couple it with infrastructure in order to unlock the value of data. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much. It was very, very inspiring. I just have one question, if I may. To me, it looked like a best practice. Each city should be queuing up to have such a smart Dubai platform. It's all very promising. Happiness meter, something that I think it's awesome to have. What is the bottleneck when you look at a little bit on the backstage? It's for us very exciting to know. I think it's a very resourceful, big investment that you are doing. Can you share with us just one bottleneck? What is currently the most exciting problem you encounter?
I think it's about mindsets. It's about changing the mindset of the leaders, of people in the government, and also individuals. And that's what we focused on right from the beginning, is making sure that we don't do this alone. We bring everybody with us. We create these partnerships. We create these platforms for collaboration. And obviously also the second point is the partnering with the private sector. This is key. So we are launching this platform with private sector as a PPP initiative with investment from both parties.
Yeah, thank you so much. Amazing. Now we come to a point to our last speaker, and I still would like to ask you to submit questions. It's still possible. We have our last speaker, again back to industry. She's very devoted, and she spent 20 years in devoting attention for the public sector and solutions. I would like to call Kathryn Willson. She's from Microsoft Public Sector, and she's the director of CityNext, which is the division that is very much devoted for open data solutions. Welcome. Please take the floor. Give her please an applause. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you, Katalin, and I'm very pleased to have been part of this panel with so many thought leaders in this area. I'm very, very pleased to be with all of you today. And thank you very much for joining us today to talk about the value of open data today, as well as what we need to do to get more value out of it in the future. There are a lot of open data platforms available in the marketplace today, and if you look at their features and capabilities, you'll see a common core set of capabilities, everything from publishing to analyzing to sharing data. These data platforms have been in the marketplace for some time. As we've seen, they're being put to good use in communities around the world. There have been more than 1 million data sets made open by governments worldwide. As of a few years ago, the total amount of open government data was about 600 petabytes of data. Now, McKinsey & Company estimates that by the year 2025, there will be over 30,000 petabytes of open government data available to us to drive insights in our community. So a huge growth that we're expecting in the amount of data. But more important than the volume of data is the value that that data is going to bring to our communities by giving us insights into how to solve new problems. McKinsey also estimates that open government data will deliver more than $3 trillion annually in societal value. And that value will come across domains such as education, healthcare, transportation, and electricity, as well as others. So there is a lot of value that we stand to gain from using this data and using it to solve problems. I want to share one example of a community that is using its open data platform to good use at this point. The city of Zagreb in the Republic of Croatia wanted to solve a few problems. They wanted to reduce their time-consuming and costly administrative processes, and they wanted to include citizens in the daily operations of their city. So they put together an open data platform and a mobile application called My Zagreb, and opened up all of the data that they were allowed to open up publicly for the city, shared that with their community. And the benefits that they're starting to see, citizens are involved and can monitor city operational processes, and they're earning the trust of their community by being more transparent. They're reducing their operational costs, and Because they've made their data available to their local small business community and developer community, they're getting new services delivered in Zagreb from people who live in Zagreb and understand exactly what Zagreb needs. So having that local community engagement effort is really helping them to drive the local economy. But we need data to solve really big problems for us. More complex problems. For example, how might we dramatically reduce the number of deaths and injuries from traffic accidents on our roadways? For this complex problem, we need a diverse set of data, including data from traffic management systems, accident reports, data from individual vehicles on the roadway, population data, probably also commuter location data, all kinds of data sets that we need to pull together to solve this problem. Some of that data is public. Some of that data is private and owned by stakeholders outside of the government. So the challenge becomes, how do we get access to the various data sets that we need, the diverse data sets to solve these complex problems? So what kind of data are we talking about? Well, open government data is one kind of data, and it exists in a universe of a lot of different kinds of data. We've been talking about big data, a lot of data coming from the Internet of Things, et cetera. A lot of this is multi-party data. Some of it's private. Some of it's being monetized by the data owners who are responsible for it. But if we're going to fuel an ecosystem of innovation that solves our most important problems, we need to harness as much of this data as the data owners will allow us to harness. We need to combine data sets, break down the data silos that you mentioned earlier, Arvind, break down those data silos and get new insights that allow us to solve these complex problems. But to do that, we need to make sure that we can secure the data and we can operate with the data in an environment that enables trust, so that the data owners will be willing to share the data for these purposes. Now, if this was easy to do, we'd be doing it already. It's not easy to do. Why is sharing data so difficult? Well, first, it comes down to being able to access the data. We've talked about data being isolated in silos across city departments. Well, if you're trying to solve regional issues, not only is it isolated within cities, but within city departments, it's isolated within cities. And if you're trying to involve the commercial sector and the private sector, it's often isolated within commercial organizations. So breaking down those data silos and getting access to the data is the first problem. The second problem is the difficulty in using the data. Data scientists spend 70% of their time trying to access the data and clean up the data so they can get it in a format where they can use it. So if you have data coming from lots of different sources, there's a lot of work involved in getting that data into a common view so you can use it. Third, the lack of trust. Data owners typically lack the control and the transparency that they need to be certain that the data that they're sharing is being used in compliance with security and privacy policies that are set forth in data transfer agreements. So until we have that trust, it's going to be difficult for people to want to share their data. Now, those are technology challenges, and they're also business challenges, and we've been talking in this conference, I've heard it several times today, that we don't spend enough time focused on the business model problems, that we tend to focus on the technology. Well, the business model problems here are equally important to address. We don't have good means for valuing the data. Not all data is free. Some highly valued data needs to have value assigned to it. We also don't have the mechanisms and the models in place to share data. There are very few organizations that have established secure environments for sharing data, the ability to assign value to that data. And so we need to create models that allow not only for data sharing, but provide access to people who know how to work with the data. Data scientists, subject matter experts, those kinds of people either need to be on staff within our cities, or if that's not a possibility, cities need to establish partnerships with service providers that can provide the people that can turn that data into something meaningful information. Now, to address these technology challenges, you need, and that's why we're here today, you need to adopt a technology platform that will provide trusted storage, will provide secure analytics, and sophisticated access controls so that you can create an environment of trust so that you can get access to the data, you can use the data, and you can share the data. Those are the technology challenges, and the IT industry is investing heavily in addressing those challenges. There are new capabilities emerging in the market today around always encrypted data, and policy that defines allowable usage for data. That policy will be able to move with data throughout its life cycle in the very, very near future. On the business challenges side, we've been working with customers for years, and we see some new models emerging, starting with trust frameworks. We need to promote trust frameworks. They are frameworks that allow, that articulate stakeholder requirements, establish the proper code of conduct for people who are working with our data, and implement punitive measures for bad behavior. So those frameworks need to be in place. We're also seeing the emergence of a new role called a data trustee, which is often a third-party, neutral third-party organization that stakeholders trust to manage the data according to the trust framework. Third, getting access to data scientists and subject matter expertise. The data scientists are the ones that can turn this big data into meaningful information, but we also need subject matter expertise who understand the domain from which that data was sourced. So for example, someone who understands traffic management and accidents on roadways to have them participate in the analysis of that data. So those business model challenges have to be addressed in equal measure with the technology challenges. So to summarize, it's the three things I want to leave you with today. You need to adopt a technology platform that will help you earn the trust of your citizens. That's a very important step. Secondly, we need to maximize the value of the data that we're collecting, because collecting data for data's sake is not helpful. It needs to be driving an outcome. It needs to be driving impact. And we need to be okay with disposing of data that's no longer useful, because storing data comes with a cost. So we need to get smart about how we're maximizing the value of our data and get access to data scientists and subject matter experts that can turn it into meaningful information. And then finally, data, I think as you've heard commonly across all of our comments today, data is the fuel. It is what's going to drive an ecosystem of innovation to help us solve our most complex problems and drive massive societal value. That value might come in reduced deaths on our roadways, it might come in improved public safety or in economic development. But at the end of the day, it's about making our cities better places to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathryn. That was also really inspiring and amazing. I just have one question. Hearing the data trustee, I think it's a very nice approach that you try to introduce. How would you invite third parties to release data or unlock data in your vision?
The model that we've seen emerging in various places, third-party non-governmental organizations, NGOs, are stepping in to provide that kind of trustee relationship. And it's very important, based on the word trust and trustee, all of the stakeholders, whether it's commercial industries or citizens or governmental departments or multiple cities in a region trying to solve a common problem, they all have to have trust in the organization or the person that fulfills the role of trustee, and that's the beginning. And when those people can get together and agree on a trust framework for how they're going to manage the data, then you're on your way to being able to create an environment where the data can be shared.
Yep. Great, thanks a lot. Yeah. So now we are moving, maybe for you the most exciting part. We will actually have some question and answers the last 10 minutes. So please stay with us. I will select some of the most wanted questions. Yeah. So privacy. One of the audience members asked, how can we guarantee privacy when all open data files can be combined? How can we mitigate the issues of privacy? How can you ensure you actually protect citizens? So please go, take it. Yeah.
I'm holding the microphone. I'll
take it.
start,
Yeah.
and then I'm happy to share. As I tried to mention, I think all of these problems have a technology component and have a business model component. So there are capabilities in the underlying platform that you want to make sure are established to protect and control access to the data. But in order to do that, privacy is something that's reflected in our technology, and it comes out of privacy policies. So we need our communities and our governments to establish the policies, the legal frameworks that establish the guardrails. So if we have our North Star of the problems that we're trying to solve, and we're moving down the road to solve those problems, we need to know what the rules are so that we can mobilize the IT industry, other industries, to build solutions that respect the rules of privacy and security in the community that establishes them. And those policies may be different around the world based on the cultural differences of various communities. So we need to clearly understand what those rules are and then reflect them in the technology.
And I would also make a distinction in terms of what data gets shared and what data is open, as well as what data stays kind of secure from a government and citizen privacy perspective. Take, for instance, lighting. You might want to share data in terms of lighting and luminosity and how it ties to security, but you certainly don't want to give citizens the ability to go get into a light grid and turn lights off, right? So I think there needs to be a distinction, and it starts with the policy, and so it's important to figure out what the data needs to be, what you're doing with the data, and who has access to the data, and it starts with that. Then you can apply technology and security to go govern that.
Yep. Great. Okay, so the next question I would like to ask actually for Smart Dubai, you got quite a few questions here. One of them is, you mentioned some enabling technologies like IoT, big data. Will you also use blockchain, or can you also describe the technology it will be incorporated in your platform?
Actually, that's very interesting. Due to the short time for my presentation, I actually took this big part out. But this is a very exciting area for us in Dubai. Actually, very recently, His Highness the Crown Prince of Dubai announced the Dubai strategy for blockchain. And we want to be the global leader in blockchain. Our ambition is actually to deploy blockchain across all government services. So we are embracing it full-heartedly. And
that's really
we're
advanced,
also trying to create a whole ecosystem. And by year 2020 to have about 1,000 new entrepreneurs or startups around blockchain.
Wow, that's really... And now you actually touched upon the next question. It was actually for Cisco. How would you integrate actually also startups in your service delivery? How can also startups contribute?
Sure. So I think startups play a key role when it comes to tying into the platform. So if you look at the way we look at it, at the south end, you have a number of companies that provide sensors. So this is where data is being captured. And a lot of these companies are small companies, and there's also a preference for many cities to have local companies and local champions. On the north end, you have application developers. And there's lots of application developers that could be small companies, it could be entrepreneurs. So we want to make sure that we make it open and easy for these companies to come on board. Now, in addition to that, Cisco is a company that's invested historically been a net investor in startups and promoting an innovation ecosystem. So we have incubators that are set up around the world that are focused on identifying specific problems, because you want to give startups specific problems for them to create businesses around, and so that they can build businesses that can successfully grow over time. And so there is incubation and potential investment activity as well where it makes sense.
Thanks. Great. So one of the questions posed are also about return on investment. We heard many great applications, good examples, but can you mention one that is really amazing in terms of return on investment, like really generating business?
Me or anyone?
Anybody can take the question.
Bueno, yo creo que como toda inversión, una inversión siempre es positiva, nunca es un gasto, ¿no? Si hablamos, por ejemplo, en la gestión de un servicio público, una gestión eficiente, si tienes los datos, el ahorro de la inversión automáticamente lo puedes recuperar en un corto plazo, simplemente los ahorros que se genera de gasto público, una gestión responsable y una gestión eficiente de los recursos públicos. Por lo tanto, aparte hay otro elemento que permite una recuperación indirecta también rápida de la inversión que tú llevas a cabo. Si tú creas un ecosistema que es favorable para la innovación, para el crecimiento económico, la inversión que tú hagas para generar ese ecosistema rápidamente te reporta en crecimiento económico, en creación de empleo, en nuevas empresas. Esas empresas pagan sus impuestos, esos impuestos al final se convierten en dinero público que por tanto resuelve toda esa inversión, si hablamos de lo público, ¿no? que se ha llevado a cabo. Con lo cual yo creo que directa o indirectamente invertir en tecnología para desarrollar inteligencia es positiva y nunca es un gasto. Creo que es una gestión eficiente del dinero público.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
So one that I would highlight is connected lighting. Lighting is one, especially that's going through a transition from halogen to LED. Lighting becomes a control point in cities because you have right-of-way. And we're also seeing this as a way where lighting happens to be one of the largest energy spends for municipal authorities. So as you move towards a connected lighting environment, you move towards LED, and then you can put a number of other sensors on a light pole. Now you have the ability to use that data and create incremental gains with that data. So it becomes a great right-of-way as well as something that benefits from energy savings as well as new business models from data.
Thanks.
We've actually just recently published a report. This is about the value of shared services. So, when government entities or different entities share and pool their resources, and this is what we've been doing for the last 10 years in Dubai, we've actually were able to quantify the benefits from this, whether soft or hard benefits. We've actually saved the government over $1.6 billion in the last 10 years approximately from sharing of the resources. And this is something that also will also translate to the open data platform and the smart power platform that we are about to launch.
I think the return on investment questions are always challenging because it's hard to get the return in dollars or euros. Often the return comes in an impact, the solving of a problem. So, examples would include the public school district that's able to raise its graduation rate from 55% to 82%, or the community in the Netherlands that's able to prevent flooding because they're using IoT in their water system, or a community in India that can reduce crime by 27% in neighborhoods that are monitored by video cameras, or the community that has digitized their city administrative services and changed the way they deliver services, and citizen satisfaction goes up 34%. So I think we have to focus on the outcome, focus on the impact. It might not always be easy to measure. You might not always be able to value it in a monetary way, but the impact that these solutions are making on our communities are real, and the potential, I don't think we've even scratched the surface of what we're going to be able to do.
Thank you so much. And actually, we arrived to a point that I would like to wrap up the session. And I think we had an amazing lineup today. And I'm very grateful to have you here. We heard about Data Trusty. We saw your really robust, amazing, promising platform. Of course, it's very inspiring to see all the work you've been doing now in Cisco. And I really like the point that you mentioned, the co-creational part, because I also believe that cities are not a single market. It's a very complex story. story, and I see the opening, so I'm really glad, and I hardly ever see more visionary city than Logroño in open data, so it's really nice to have you here. I think it was very inspiring, and I really hope that this will move us to a new conversation when it's about data. It's not just about pushing data in the cloud, but much more, what do we need? How can we make applied solutions that is actually demanded from citizens, but also to create solutions that we can scale between cities, because cities are very similar. And I'm sure that we can scale many infrastructure, many solutions that you are working on. And hopefully next year, startups will be also in this session included, because they're very important contributors in this ecosystem. So please give a big applause to all the speakers for the session. And I think they really deserve, and stay with us if you would like to speak one of the speakers, thought leaders in the field, use the time, speak, and stay with us. Thank you so much. Enjoy.